much for joining us on a summer Monday morning / afternoon, depending on where you're tuning in from. So happy to see all of you and or your name on a screen. We would love to see more faces if you would consider gracing us with your presence. Thank you, Sue. You're the best. She just turned her camera on. Nicole, awesome to see you guys. Anybody who wants to join us and really get engaged with us and banter with us. We'd love to. Anthony, so awesome to see you. Loved your golf post this morning. It was really good. Guys, welcome. I'm Amy Youngren. I am one of the founders of United. United is the industry's most collaborative space, a brand agnostic community. We welcome every brand and brokerage. So no matter what company you work for, we're so happy that you're here today. I'm pumped because we're doing a special session today that just kind of came to me actually late last week, which is why we haven't done a ton of marketing around it. I just feel so full and so blessed and lucky to have been to get to go to the Forward event, which is run by industry maven Neel Dhingra. For those of you that don't know him, you have to find him on social. His handle, we'll drop it into the chat. It's at Neel Home. He is just honestly just putting agents and actually the mortgage industry on the map by helping agents and brokers just do such a better job communicating value through social and through content, and just really helping agents and mortgage brokers, but just to be able to really scale online through social media and through content and actually see conversion as a result of all the things they're doing with the content they're putting out, the brand that they're building. And so it was an awesome event. The cool thing about the event, and I'm putting so much emphasis on like the content side of things, but it was a leadership conference too. It was a management conference. It was a human relationship conference. It was honestly amazing. So I'm really pumped that we're able to share. And I've got some of my colleagues on this call, and we're just all going to just share openly about our top takeaways from the conference. And I'm very, very excited too, because I did reach out to Neel. I told him I was going to be doing this call with my colleagues for all of you guys. And he has given us a special gift that I'm going to share with you at the very end. So I definitely don't want to dominate this call. So I'm going to give it over to my colleague, Jen Dillard, to kick us off. Jen, let us know too where your business is so that we can make sure that we can all send you referrals to your area. There's lots of realtors on this call, and I'm sure lots will be listening after as well. We want to make sure that we can send business your way, but talk to us about where you're from and then your top takeaway from Forward.
Yeah, so I am from Hood River, Oregon, which is a resort town at the base of Mount Hood. I'm currently visiting San Diego and in a hotel room with my children and my husband. So if it gets noisy while I'm talking, I'm sorry. But yeah, so I'm in Hood River, Oregon, and this was my first time attending the Forward event, and I had literally no idea what to expect, except for I thought I would see some friends and get some information, but this actually turned out to be the best event that I had ever attended. It was not just the content, but the people that were there. Like Amy said, I think that it was very much a leadership conference, but you also could take it away whether you were a brand new agent, a team leader, a broker owner. I feel like there was something for everyone. Um, for me personally, I felt like the name of the game was that your personal brand is your biggest asset, and how you show up to the world is so important. And as a real estate agent, showing up with hyperlocal content is the number one thing right now that you need to be focusing on. And what I brought back to my team was like, we need to focus on we need to focus on not just who we are and our brand and showing people that, people can know us, like us, trust us through showing our personal brand and our being authentic, but also why are people moving to different areas? It's not because of a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, it's because of the area itself. So being able to So being able to showcase like the best places to go for date night, the best places. If you guys don't follow our friend Alyssa Kernut, she's one I would definitely recommend following. I thought of her the whole time when everybody was talking about hyperlocal content because she just crushes in that area. But so that was really big for me. Some of the other takeaways were that I always have thought what is my thing? There's so many people that have a thing, that they specialize in. And I had struggled for a long time trying to figure out what my thing was. And then Sharon said something that really resonated with me. And he said, a one-trick pony is actually a unicorn.
Mm.
And I really loved that because I do feel like I have several things that I love that I work on, but I never really thought they were like good enough or cool enough or whatever it may be. But I thought that was really interesting and special that he shared that. So those are my biggest takeaways, I think. Just focusing on hyperlocal content, showing up, your personal brand is your biggest asset,
Mhm.
and relationships. And we all know like how important relationships are, but just really doubling down on those relationships, making sure that you don't expect anything in return. Like you just to give, and you love on the people in your network just to love on them, and you show up whether you're paid or not, or whether you're, just to support somebody else. So those are my biggest takeaways.
He dove into that with his example of the 10-10 forever. What are the 10
Yeah.
relationships that you would want to invest in for the next 10 years? Um, with the intention that they would be like forever relationships. And I thought that that was so impactful. And it made me like really think about the
Who
10
those people
people
are.
that I could really pour into and relationships that I could nurture without any expectation of anything in return for the next decade. And it got me actually like jotting things down, jotting names down, like
I
personal
did the same,
relationships and
Amy.
names. Yeah.
And the other thing was the five rules for building epic
Yes.
relationships, and those were no scorecard. So you can't
Mhm.
do like a tit for tat. Just because you do something for someone, you can't expect something in return. Number two was go overboard and do epic shit for somebody else. Big doesn't have to be expensive, but do something, really nice for somebody else just because. Be extremely generous and expect nothing in return. Share everything you've got, which is such a real, like, at real, I know that that's something that's really important, that you have to be able to share. If you're going to share it to one, you have to share it to all. And I love that. And say yes to every request. And I'm doing more of that this year. I'm definitely saying yes more than no, which is uncomfortable, but super important.
I love it. I love it. So good. Desi, anything you want to tag on to that, or do you want to move into your takeaways?
So I'll tag on to that and then I'll move into mine. So one of the things that I really liked that he said about like a pony is a unicorn. He said, when you spend time working on your weaknesses, you get a lot of really strong weaknesses. So
Mm.
find somebody else to take your weaknesses, if that's their strength, and let them excel in that area, and then take your strengths and make them even stronger. And so I really, really liked that. And I, like you guys, had a ton of big takeaways. Um, Johnny Cupcakes gave these out. And one of the things that I've built my business on, oh, I'm in Burley, Idaho, in case you guys don't know.
Yes.
It's a small
Let's
market. We have about
send referrals to Burley, Idaho.
We've got about 10,000 homes in our market. But what I built my business on, because I didn't have any friends, didn't have any sphere of influence, didn't really know anybody when we moved to this rural town. We moved here from Southern California. And I've built my whole business based on client experience and the book Raving Fans. And he just talked about the little sprinkles that you can add in. So these little tiny touches that you can add in to make it a super special experience. And so that was one thing that I really liked. But I loved Neil's one to many framework. And so we've been doing buyers boot camps and we've done a sellers boot camp, but I never really thought about a one to many like you could do a webinar. Your online presence is also a one to many, like your Instagram posts, your Facebook posts, and then your email marketing is also one to many. But what I really liked was his framework for the way you name it, because we've always just called ours like a buyer's boot camp. And it's like, well, what even is that? And so you guys might want to write this down. So the way to name it is the new way to get blank. It's your desired outcome, even if you face blank, this problem. So, for example, the new way to buy your first home in 2025, even if the rates are high. Or the new way to buy before you sell in 2025, even if all your money is tied up in your current home. And so that was something that I really liked and a big takeaway I got. I'm going to do a lot more one-to-manys and word them better so that more people show up.
Well, and one of the things, like the girl that he used as the example on the screen, even when we think like, oh, I want to do a one-to-many buyer webinar or seller webinars of something along those lines, we think, is it impactful if there's not more than like, if there's not 100 people on it, have I not been successful with it? But actually, number one, the right people will always show up when you show up. Number one, and you do the work and you do the things. But second of all, when you're niching down that way, and I actually know somebody from Keller Williams who talks a lot about this, and she does a ton of like exactly like Neel sharing one-to-many webinars. And I listened to her on her podcast, and I totally reframed the way I was thinking, because when we were doing it with our team, I was like, oh, it's not successful. Like there's like 30 people on here or whatever. And she said that they do them consistently every single month, and there's anywhere from 10 to 30 or 40 people on there. And she's been doing it for years. And so I was like, okay, we've only been doing this since the last forward, because I learned that from Neel. Like, okay, just stick with it. And that's the other thing too, guys, is like we try something once, and then if we don't think it's successful, or if it isn't successful, if we haven't gotten like instant gratification, instant results, we just quit. We give up. We don't keep going. So my mission is to keep going with webinars, keep teaching our team partners how to host these webinars for their buyers and sellers, and not to give up, and just to keep going. And so I like that was one of your takeaways, Desi. And that's super tactical. So tactical. Like every single one of us could go and do that in the next couple of weeks. I love that.
Were you guys
Awesome.
talking about Sharon Srivatsa, the president of acquisition.com?
Yes, that's who we're talking about, Jason.
How weird was it to see that logo on the deck instead of Real Broker?
Yeah, that was like, I was like, oh, I didn't know if that was like I was like proud / like sad.
Really sad. As someone my key takeaway from that, because I think we've probably all heard that talk before, the future-proofing your business. But then again, every time you hear that talk, it's something different a little bit. In my notes, I have 10-10 forever wrote down. I have the quantity quality kind of matrix that goes like this, and like trying to time it right so that you're not at the beginning, you put out a lot of quantity, then you put out quality, and then it goes to quantity and quality. But I really like, so Alyssa Jen mentioned her, is my tier 1. And then Katie is my sponsor. So in this real ecosystem, I have 2 of the hyper local queens like around me. And so I've seen it all the time, but I don't do that content. I don't like that content. I can't do the green screen and talk about the new Costco and the new Chick-fil-A, but it's crushing for them. And so like they're right when they say it's the meta right now is to get that type of content out and to do it. But I loved the fact that he was basically like, and Desi just shared it, is like, that's not my strength. And so if you spend a ton of time working on that weakness, you're just going to have a really strong weakness. I love that quote. I wrote it down in my book because I have this talk I've been doing called the 5 zones of greatness. And it's like the 5 different types of agents and like how you can market yourself. And if you're not that type of agent, but you go to forward and you're like, well, I have to do the green screen hyper local content, you're going to have a strong weakness. So like if you're doing mailers or you're doing networking or you're doing geographic farming, do that really, really well. And then it goes tied into what he said, you know what else is a one-trick pony? A unicorn. And so like become the expert in it and do that thing really, really well. And you can make an entire career off that one thing. It doesn't have to be hyper local content. That's the meta right now. That's doing really well right now. But if your thing is client events and you do 4 a year, take that up to 6 and do them really, really well. And so like that, I love that kind of takeaway that you don't have to do every little thing that they're talking about, but then he shared what's working right now. And that's good. Neel too. Neel, we've probably all heard speak a few times, but he was able to kind of pivot into some new stuff. He really talked about content that's contrarian oftentimes works. You don't have to be like a shock jock. You don't have to say things just to get the views, but like it reminded me, he's like, don't be afraid to say the quiet part out loud. And for us right now, it could be like, is the market getting ready to shift? Should you buy right now, right? And it's like, I've been in the business 13 years. For 13 years, every real estate agent in my ecosystem has said it's a great time to buy and it's a great time to sell. And I'm like, well, when is it not a good time to buy? It can't be a great time to buy for 13 years every single month. There are cycles to this, right? So, and I did a video before Forward, but it was like, I actually think it would not be a bad thing if rates went up a little bit and we saw a little bit of a correction, because it would allow people to jump back in. It would hurt for 6 months or a year, but then it allowed people to jump back in. And it was such a contrarian video to anything a real estate agent would ever say, but it did way better. So don't be afraid to say like the quiet part out loud, and actually phrase it like that. Like, hey, I'm going to tell you the quiet part out loud that most realtors wouldn't tell you. It's actually, you should actually wait 6 months and rent or something like that, right? And some sort of a contrarian view, those work really well on social. That came from Neil's talk too.
Well, and it's so funny because Neel always talks about like having a POV about what's going on in your community or in your market and being like brave enough to share that. And he always says, like, because so many of us, and I put myself in this category too, like we're afraid to have that opinion, what Jason's talking about. And I'm like sitting here thinking like, oh, Jason's so brave for doing that. But at the end of the day, Neel always says, he's like, guys, like people want to know your perspective. They want to know your point of view. And at the very worst, and this is his exact words, at the very worst, if you're wrong, delete it. Like he always says that. He's like, if you give a prediction on something and for whatever reason you were like the opposite happened, like just delete the video. Who's going to remember anyways? Everyone's going to go back to their lives. I'm going to walk out the door that I'm in right now at a cottage with 12 children. And I promise you that if somebody predicted something on the Zoom, I probably wouldn't remember 3 weeks from now, because you're going to just go get distracted, right? By life and all the busyness and all the things going on around you. So be bold and be brave. I love speaking of the things that are like, Jason, you being brave enough to say those things on social is one of the things that I think has really contributed to you building such a strong personal brand in your market and in our industry. And one of the things that I love that Cody Sanchez said, she spoke at the Forward conference too, is she said the fastest way not to win online or the fastest way not to win in business is to be somebody online that you're not. And I thought that was really impactful.
I also was thinking when Jason was speaking about a quote that something that Chris Do said, and he said, have the courage to be disliked.
Yeah.
That was a big one, because we're all so afraid of people not liking us or, saying something that's gonna, ruffle feathers. But
I love how
if you're
he's
being truthful and authentic, then, speak your truth and be, tell your opinion, be professional. But I think it's important to say what you think on certain topics.
Yeah,
That was something Cody talked about too.
absolutely.
it was good. He taught like how he did this whole slide. Chris Do did the slide about having like a personal brand. Like if you are not standing for something, like you are like vanilla, like you're not going to be able to stand out. Like the personal, I screenshotted like the personal brand, because I thought like that to me was like so impactful, but like really just letting go of the fear, like to really, to be yourself and to put yourself out there.
I loved how he also said, don't assume people know who you are. I think too often people, when we show up online, we think, or when we speak in front of rooms, we think, oh, people know who I am, And so he, like I agree with all of you guys, the unbland yourself and embody your brand, down to even textures for him, like down to the little details.
Yeah, he's really he's a cool person to follow. He's like an end to everything.
I think he understands brand at a whole nother level that I have never seen.
Level.
Who is
that? Chris Do.
Yeah.
Chris Do.
It could be there could be aspects of that are a little overwhelming, because he is like a next plane, like whole other level. For sure. Shalini, Shalini, do you want to introduce yourself and maybe share some of your takeaways?
Yeah, sure. Mine are very they're very similar to what everyone's been saying. I'm Shalini Enriquez. I'm in like Toronto area. I'm in Milton, Ontario, which is like a suburb of the GTA in Canada. This was my second forward. I went last year by myself and then met Amy, and then we saw Amy there, which was really cool. And I bought my ticket for this year, last year, because like I had it was so impactful, and I left with so many things to do that I implemented, which was really great. So I was really excited to go this year. Again, like I really enjoyed like Sharon's talk. I had not heard that talk before. I think it was like the first time he was doing that particular one. And what I took away from it, again, like if you've ever followed like Gary Vee, like you've heard about like that, like being the digital mayor and things like that, but he had like almost like a new spin on it. And like, so I like doing video content. So like that was my big takeaway. Is like, I've got to do more hyper local and like different ways of doing it. And just like, and showcasing your community. So even I went and I filmed like 2 videos this weekend. I was like, because that's the whole thing with the education without implementation is not the thing, right? So he was like, take 3 things. It's going to be so overwhelming with all of the different things that you learn. Like just walk away with 3 things that you're going to implement. So that one was one of them for me. And the other one was about building in public. And I think it was like Neel that had talked about, like, don't be scared to talk about the things that you're working on behind the scenes, and like showcasing those things to other agents or like to your clients, just like on your social, and not just your wins when you've arrived, right? Like showcasing the process, which is something I think for me, maybe you would be nervous to do because you don't want like, or people to think that you don't have everything together all the time. But I think there's so much value. And you can see so much content about that right now. Like people are like, hey, come with me as I build this thing. And like, I will watch them. Like it's interesting to learn in those aspects. So those were a few of my really good takeaways.
What you said there kind of tied into Ryan Leake as well. I don't want to jump around speakers, but you said basically like taking the implementation of it. He said, he's like, you don't need to, the best book you read is the book you actually applied, right? And he's like, as a speaker, we want you to walk away. Can't remember. I think I have the notes on there. Hold on. Ryan Leake. Yeah, we don't need more information. We need some more application. The best book you ever read was the one you actually applied, and great leaders won't leave with more notes. They leave with next steps. I mean, obviously, I had never heard him speak before. This is actually why I like Forward, because sometimes with these events, you hear the same speakers over and over again. And then with Forward, this was one where other than Sharon, I didn't know anybody on the lineup, or I had never heard. And Ryan is such a good speaker. And it was tactical. He's the author guy. But his cadence was really good. Like I just liked hearing him speak. It was a mix of stories and tactics. And so that takeaway was really like, oh man. As I was sitting there taking notes, he's like, the best leaders aren't taking notes. They're walking away with next steps. And I'm like, okay, shoot. So then I put it into like a next step list.
Ryan was the one that kept talking about like life is a game of inches.
Inches, yes.
Yeah, I loved that.
Great.
Yeah,
that's really good.
I bought the book too. Yeah, Desi's got it right there. I love his story about the book cover designer too. Basically, he and how they rewrote the whole book. It doesn't read like a book the same way. And he showed his original book cover concepts, and then he got introduced to this guy and saw the bill. And it was his friend that said like, well, yeah, Ryan, you're in the big leagues now. And like, I wrote that down as a note. I'm like, that was such a great takeaway. Not just like, I'm going to go spend more money, but it's like, hey, you want to play at this level? Like your brand needs to reflect that level too. You're in the big leagues now. You're listing $1 million houses now, not 500, whatever it is. You're in the big leagues now. You're going to have to put a little investment into playing that league. I really like that. And
I like the application of playing the game of inches, implementing that into the client experience, because if you're competing for a listing or to get a client under BRA, or you're just you're in your content or whatever it is that you're trying to show who you are and the value that you deliver in your business, it could be the difference of inches that is going to get you that business. Something small that you do that sets you apart or elevates your service, elevates the client experience, shows that you're listening at a higher level. Like it could be such a small incremental thing. And so I like applying that to the actual like tactical side of like how we're running our businesses and elevating the experience side, because it could literally be inches. inches that would win you that business. Shalini, did you finish? I can't even remember if you finished or not.
Oh yeah, no, I'm good.
Raquel.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I love this conversation, and thank you, Amy, for doing this. I think as I was flying home from Forward, I have to say that, and we've heard this a million times, live events change lives. I think these events make you kind of recalibrate your GPS, right? And there's a couple things that stood out for me when it comes to the Forward specifically. I think content is no longer optional. Right? Experience was a huge one, whether it was Johnny Cupcake that talked about surprise and delight. And what it all like leads into is relationships. Like, never underestimate the power of your voice, never underestimate the power of content, because a lot of these people and a lot of the ones that I'm seeing on my screen, I have never met, but I have built relationships through social first before meeting them in person. And so I think that if you are going to, whether, like Jason said, if you're going to go hyper local, is find your thing. And at the end of the day, like, what really makes like growth happen in whether it's business or in life is just relationships. And obviously Sharon talked about that. And I think a lot of us went inward and go like, who are our next 10? And, who are my 10 that I've had in my life that have made such a huge impact? And Sharon's one of those for me. Dan Martell, I've never heard him speak. He talked about buying back your time. And he talked about like your calendar. If you looked at your calendar today, it reflects your beliefs. And so go back and think about where you putting your time and your energy, because the truth is $1 million businesses aren't built on $10 tasks. Right. And so, it's like, figure out all the things you do and put dollar signs next to them and go, what do you need to get off your calendar to free up your energy for bigger decisions? And so he was one, and he talked about different ladders. And like Amy said, that some of his talk was more on leadership and really, figuring out where can I make bigger decisions to solve bigger problems in my business and free up the things that are really weighing me down. And then I loved how they closed. I mean, first of all, the way they closed out Forward was super epic. Like, Clint,
Unbelievable. Yeah.
It was so
he was a
cool.
drummer. I had never seen somebody talk, or whether it was a magician and like put magic and talk. It makes you think of if you do speak or you think of your presentation as like, how could I even elevate my own presentation? Of course, I don't play the drums, but what was really cool about what Clint said, it was not about being the best in the world. It's about being the best for the world.
Yeah.
And how do you keep your people, for those that are in leadership, for those that lead people, for those that build communities, is what can I do to keep you here? What can I do for us to continue to collaborate? Or what can I do for you, for us to, look at 10 years from now, people in our organization and in our network? I think, what's the way, like really supporting our people, and what's getting in the way of success? Right. I think a lot of times when we hire people or when we partner with people, we have expectations, but we forget to kind of follow through. And so I thought his was like phenomenal, the way it ended. And I would just say that if you are feeling, stuck, or you're feeling like you're hitting a plateau, is go to an event like Forward, go to an event, because it'll, number one, expose you to different speakers, expose you to different ideas, but it'll also expose you to different relationships. Like, I got to meet Shalani at a dinner at Forward. And I think it's about the hallway conversations that we missed. And anytime that you go to an event, there was a night where I could have probably had dinner in my hotel room. But like, I forced myself to be like, Amy, what are you doing? And I started texting people that I knew that were at Forward, because I think that's where some of the depth and the relationship out of surface like really does happen.
100%.
And I think I think if you're right now, you're like, okay, well, I didn't go to forward maybe because for financial reasons or other reasons. Start planning now because this is a great opportunity. We're now a year away from the next one. And if this is something that's important to you, then start putting aside like a little piece every single month so that you could be in that room. I guarantee you being in there, I always I mentioned this to our team a few times that back when I first got into real estate sales, around 12 years ago, the only two things that I could afford outside of my rent and food, any extra money that I had, it went into coaching and it went into being in the room at live events because I knew those were the things that were going to catapult my business. And I can honestly say that I went years without going on vacation, years without buying the purse, years and years without doing the things that we would typically do. But I hired a coach and I got myself in rooms like live events and conferences and things like that, where I knew I was going to get surrounded by people, get in proximity with people that were going to help me get my business to the next level. And so I want to, if you're like, oh, financially, I couldn't afford to be there. Well, number one, that's why we wanted to do this debrief for anybody that wishes that they could have been there or wasn't able to be there financially. Start now, start planning now, plan ahead for it's July the 10th. July the 10th, 2026. That's the date. I love Neel Dhingra. He is like such a phenomenal, impactful leader in our industry. And I'm just going to read the quote that he said at the very beginning of Forward that impacted me so much, which is the reason why I'm on this Zoom on my 1 week of vacation this summer. And I know that Jen's doing the exact same. And these, my colleagues and friends here all took the time today because when the goal is people, the energy never dies. When the goal is people, the energy never dies. And Neel has given us a gift, you guys. He's given us a gift of his content accelerator program, and he's offering it at a special discount for anybody that's on this Zoom or anybody that watches this Zoom. I'm going to share my screen so that you guys can see what he's got here. Let me just see. Shalini, maybe do you want to just like touch on the Content Accelerator program? Because I know you know a little bit about it. And guys, if you send a DM of United, UNTD, no vowels in our name, you send a DM to Neel Home and you use the word United, he's got a special discount for you. But maybe Shalini, I'll just let you share a little bit about the Content Accelerator program for a second.
Oh, for sure. I've been in it since he started it. I've followed like Neel, I think since 2018. I met him at a Bomb conference, like back, like I think it was 2018. It was in Denver, and he's
in Denver.
Like,
yeah, I remember it.
Right? You remember you were there, like too,
I was
right?
there.
I like again, I like you just didn't. It was so good, like back in the day, but like he and it was such a small conference that one. But if you see even just like and I love his story when he shares his sort of origin, like, or how he had started back in 2018 till now. Like he used to try and do, or he would do like talks on social, and like they wouldn't, like at brokerages, they wouldn't even give him a room. Like they would put him in the hallway, and he has like photos of this. And now he's doing these massive conferences. It's very inspiring. But I'm in the accelerator program. I've been since he launched it. There's there's like bi-weekly Zoom calls, and it's a very like just like the same sort of idea of the Forward community. Like it's like a sharing, like it'll help you with content. He's always coming out, like he's on top of everything. Like he spoke about Hey Jen and half of those things before I had even like heard about them. So he's really like on top of stuff. So he shares different like AI things that are coming out, like ways to help with your content. There's even like scripts and things like that they give in there. It's full of realtors and a lot of mortgage and loan officers all over Canada and the US. And it's great. Like I've learned so much from it, and definitely like that's great that he's giving a special offer. That's awesome.
So guys, you can send a DM to Neel, use the words United, just say you were on this Zoom, and he's going to give you a special discount to join in his Content Accelerator. Is there anybody else maybe that is on this call? Nestor, I see that you're here. Would you like to tell us any of your takeaways, if you've got a second before we bounce off?
Thank you, Amy. Well, first of all, thank you guys very much, and everybody who participated. I was, Michelle and I were both there, and you guys did an awesome recap. I felt like I was at the event all over again. So, I had three big takeaways from the event. One was keep it simple, be specific, and making basically it was keep it simple. That this was a game of inches, and those small tweaks that we can figure out in our business can lead to or equal big leaps. And then being hyper local, just making sure that we're hyper local in our content. With regard to forward, I think Neel should be paying you a little bit of money, Amy, for giving him so many props. But it was a fantastic event, and we go to a lot of events every single year. One of my favorite things about this event, as Jason had mentioned, is that it is so diverse in the speakers that he has, that truly not just one, but several of the people up there will resonate with you wherever you are in your business. Yeah. And, after Michelle shares, I would love to hear back from you guys. And Neel had mentioned, we're going to be overwhelmed with so much information, narrow it down to three. I would love to hear everybody's, what was their one thing that they're going to be implementing.
Oh, yeah. I'm supposed to share. Okay. My share, it was basically, people have so many options. The consumers have so many options. And time is the currency of the people. And so we need to really be more thoughtful in what we're doing with that time, with the people, with our consumers, with the people we're working with, et cetera. And what I liked about Clint, he also said the power of the to-don't list. Mm-hmm. So instead of having that to-do list of all those things, what about that to-don't list? Don't do certain things. Mm-hmm. And I really like that. Besides Ryan's was really impactful as far as that game of inches. You've all talked on or touched on that as well. It's just pretty amazing to think about. It's always those small things, but we're always so scared to do those small things, or we think, oh, maybe we're doing enough, but it's never enough, because it's really not about us. It's about everybody else. And we really need to think about everybody else and be mindful of that. And those were my biggest takeaways, really. Just, awesome. People talked about, oh, don't be embarrassed or give an opinion or whatever. And we don't do it because we think it's about us, and it's not about us at all. People don't care. Just as Amy said, you're going to walk out the room, you're going to forget what anybody said, and you're just going to kind of go about your day. So I think those things are very important. Just be impactful to the world and be yourselves, I think that's what's the most important thing.
Well, and I think that Shalini touched on it did I just interrupt you, Jen?
No, I just wanted to add two more things when you have, you go.
No, go.
Okay, so two more things. When you go to an event, don't be afraid to say hi too. Like Amy and I have followed each other for a long time. We'd never met in person, which is crazy, but I saw her walking down the hall at Forward, and I was like, Amy, and I said hi to her, and we ended up having lunch, and we really connected, and I'm so grateful that we had that time. So I think, don't be afraid to, if you see someone, you recognize someone from social media, don't be afraid to go up and say hi and introduce yourself. So that's one thing. The other thing is with Dan Martell has been a game changer for me. Buy Back Your Time was one of the best books I've ever read, and it really helped me to grow my business. But something that you can do today with that is, as you're going about your day, write down everything that you do, everything that you're doing. And at the end of the day, in red, mark the things that don't require you. And in green, mark the things that do require you. And then start delegating off the things that don't require you to free up your time to be able to focus on the things that do and that you enjoy. So
I love that. Jason, go for it.
Are you ready for some rapid fire?
Yeah.
Okay, because I have notes. Okay, so Cody Sanchez came out. I don't know. We briefly went over Cody. She buys businesses and flips them, and then she has a big social following too. She had a nugget in there that was compare the growth rates of who you're trying to emulate. And if you're growing faster percentage-wise, then don't copy them. Basically, they're saying some of the biggest brands in the world and things like that, you'll see their content and then you go copy that. But if you on your 2,000 followers are actually growing at a faster percentage, then what you're doing is actually right. Don't always just copy the bigger brands because they're the bigger brands. So you have to actually look at the percentage of growth rate to do a little bit of research to see who's actually growing.
That was so good.
Sometimes we just look at the big brands and we're like, oh, Gary Vee's doing that, or so-and-so is doing that, so we're going to copy. But actually, what you're doing is better, stick with the faster growth rate. Johnny Cupcakes, we talked about him really quick. He had a slide that said the unexpected sprinkles. It was kind of interesting because like the first 20 minutes of his talk, I was almost checked out. I'm like, he's just talking about his history, which is fine. I mean, there's a lot of that. But then he dropped the unexpected sprinkles, and I'm like, right into the notes. Because in our business, that could just mean like the extra gift that you do for your client or the extra little thing that wows them. And so I had it in the back of my head where I'm just like, gift out of nowhere. And then it happened where this week we had a new listing and we're staging, it was Saturday, we're staging it and doing photos. So it was like a 5-hour day. And the husband and wife, they have 2 kids. And so they had to leave their house for 5 hours on a Saturday. And so I was thinking, I'm like, unexpected sprinkles, what can we do? And so I got them tickets to the zoo here in San Diego. Because I'm like, they were going to go to the park or something like that. And I'm like, I got them 4 tickets to the zoo. And the wife cried. She's like, this is so nice. Thank you so much. Because like, I knew that I was putting them out for 5 hours, 6 hours. And so it was a Johnny Cupcakes in the back of my head. I'm like, the unexpected sprinkle. What can we do here that just like nobody else would do or think of? And it clicked with her. And then I've got
I'm
Ryan.
heading to the zoo after this, Jason. I'll look for my tickets. Thank you.
Unexpected sprinkles. Ryan Leake talked about his chicken tender story, where he was at the airport and he was buying chicken tenders and he went back up to buy barbecue sauce. And the guy, obviously in a bad mood, was like, that'll be 75 cents. And he's like, come on, man. Like, really? Like, I have to pull out my card, swipe my card, and leave a tip, get 2 receipts. And so in that moment, the guy was like, yeah, he was kind of gruff with him. And so he actually left a $10 tip. And he said that the guy's whole attitude turned around and he's like, I didn't do it to flex to show that I had $10. He's like, I did it to show that I get to set the energy. Like, your energy doesn't impact me. I get to set the tone for the day. I took notes on that. And then Clint, you mentioned, Amy, how this was kind of a leadership conference almost. Clint was almost talking to me as a leader manager because for years I was either a solo producer, I had a small team of 4, and now I have 12. And so I'm learning this management piece of this kind of on the fly as best as I can. And he showed a slide where he talked about the 4 types of managers. I don't know if you guys can see this. And he talked about basically how if you have low standards of high connection, and he's basically, and I'm like, oh crap, for the last 4 years, I think I've been the buddy. Like, I've been friends with my teammates in a sense. And I'm like, that's going to lead to low standards, which now if I'm growing a team of 12 and beyond, it's like, you have to have high standards. You have to not cut the low people, but you have, because like the oldest thing, like A players want to be around other A players. You know what I mean? B players don't like being around A players, and A players don't like being around B players. So if you're the buddy and you let the low standards go, what's going to happen is you're actually going to get entitled people, and it's just going to be a bad situation. And so what they're actually looking for is a mentor, because the mentor can hold them accountable, which leads to respect in the industry or within the team. And so I really like this slide. I screenshotted it. It's in my phone because this is one of the ones from Clint that stood out. Obviously, his whole story was really good. The guy gave him the drumsticks and stuff, but his approach to leadership there, I was like, oh, that's a really great takeaway. I like that.
One of the things that he said that was so impactful that I actually shared in my recap from the conference was the coolest part of being a leader is that it matters. The hardest part about being a leader is that it matters every single day. You don't get the choice when you choose leadership, whether that's leading your clients, being a leader in the industry, leading the leader of your family, your team, your staff, your company, whatever role or level of leadership you choose. Entrepreneurialism is leadership. And you're choosing leadership by choosing to be an entrepreneur. And you don't have the choice to like move in and out of leadership, move in and out of management. That's not the option. The option is to show up on your A game and bring your best every single day, because it matters. It matters to all the people that are around you.
He was so good. What's the name of his book again? Because I don't have my note in front of me. What was the name?
It's I read it before I even realized that it was him. I have it, Shalini. I can get it for you.
I forgot to. Although the first thing I did think was that I wanted to introduce him to Ryan's book cover guy, because Clint's book was so good, but his book cover was not that good. And I'm like, you should go talk to Ryan.
Okay, I hate to say it, but I'm not going to say it out loud because I'm not going to say the name. But when you because we got a copy of Ryan's book and we got a copy of a couple of the other books, and you put them side by side, it was like you can tell the paper quality and the cover quality of the cover instantly. And he used that analogy in his session. Guys, this was so impactful. I'm just going to go back because I want to answer Sue's question. So registration is not open yet for next year's event. It was open only at the conference. So they pre-sold tickets for next year's conference at the conference. I don't know when they're going to open it, but if you follow, we've dropped his handle in the chat a couple of times, and Neel Dhingra, his handle is at Neel Home. And as I mentioned, if you DM Neel at Neel Home United, he has a special discount code for you guys for his Content Accelerator program. I just want to say thank you, Jason, Jen, Shalini, Raquel, Desi, Nestor. Thank you so much. Michelle as well, of course, for contributing today. And thank you to you guys for showing up on a summer Monday. Appreciate all of you. This recording will be available on our United YouTube channel within the next few days. All of our recordings are always available on that channel within a few days. Thank you for being a part of this session, you guys, and I hope you have an amazing rest of your day.